He is mentioned as a potential vice presidential selection for former President Donald Trump, Senator JD Vance from Ohio, RNC co-chair Lara Trump. Good to see you both. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Laura, great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Okay, first I need to apologize to you. I did not know your life story. Everybody in the world read your book, except me, because I get a pile of papers this high every day to study for 4 hours being on air. And I saw your movie. Wow. I was so inspired by your life. I was blown away. And amazing life story. So what does it mean to you to be considered to be Donald Trump's vice president on top of that story?
Well, look, man, it's an incredible honor just to be here and just to have the opportunity to serve the people of Ohio, of course, to be considered as vice president. I mean, my life has been crazy, and it's a testament to how incredible this country is that a kid like me has been given the opportunities that I've been given. But, you know, whether it's in the Senate or some other role, I kept on thinking about how this debate would look through the eyes of someone who grew up like I did. You know, I remember my grandmother negotiating with a Meals on Wheels person to get more food so that she could sort of share some with me. That was in the movie. And, you know, you think about this when Joe Biden talks about how inflation is all Donald Trump's fault. Inflation was 1.4% when Donald Trump was president. And, you know, grocery prices have gone up 30, 40, 50%, depending on the item that you're talking about. That hurts real people. That means real people can't afford to get the food that they want for their kids and their grandkids. The contrast between these two was so extraordinary. The energy of Donald Trump, the meandering of Joe Biden, the fact that Joe Biden seemed to forget his talking points. Donald Trump was in command of the facts. Sean, I just think this was such a remarkable contrast for the American people to see. And more importantly than any debate performance, this shows the difference in how they're going to govern. Who do you want to be the president of the United States for the next 4 years? Watching this debate performance, I think the obvious answer is Donald Trump.
You know, and that does bring us to the point about your father-in-law and the fact that he had such a command of issues. Now, a lot of people were asking me in the lead up to tonight, how do I think that Donald Trump's going to do? Well, I happened to be with him about 2 weeks ago. As you know, I did an interview.
Right.
We did about an hour and 15 minutes. Then he went to do an interview with Dr. Phil for about an hour and 15 minutes. Then he went to a dinner for about 2.5 hours. And he was so conversant on every issue. And he was so well-versed and none of it rehearsed. There was a lot of talk. He barely prepared for this debate. And he seemed so ready and so dialed in and so in command of the issues. Nothing fazed him. Some people thought he would react to Joe or the moderators. He didn't react to anything.
Well, and I loved that about this performance. If you watched him the whole time, people said, what Donald Trump are we going to get? He was calm. He was concise. He was direct. Everything that he said resonated with the American people. And a lot of times people wonder, well, what is he doing to debate prep? You just said it, Sean. This is his life. This is what he does every single day. And I think his quote was, I've been preparing for this my whole life. And if you were president for 4 years and you actually were a successful president, as he was, you do understand the issues. You understand what needs to happen. You understand how to get this country back. You understand where we've gone astray and what Joe Biden has done that has destroyed this country. And so he, of course, had command of the entire debate because of that. But to JD's point, look, we have a huge contrast on our hands now when you look at these two men on a stage. And I think that's why this debate was so vital for the American people. You almost didn't need to watch it, Sean, with the sound on to see the difference between these two men. It was weakness versus strength. We need strength right now in this country. We need to get this country back. The American people are desperate for it, and it's Donald Trump who will deliver.
I am going to show a montage in a short period. Robert, do we have that montage available? Because it was Joe Biden when he wasn't even speaking, when it was split screen and he was on camera, and that stare, that he just seemed like he wasn't there. And we actually have it. Let's show it now. Yeah. Now, I want to talk about this. So when we cut this, I said to my staff, I said, guys, I just want you to get Joe Biden when Donald Trump is speaking and just staring into space. I mean, if I was going to use words, I'd say it was like the stare of an empty vessel. And I really am wondering, there's something wrong here. And you know, it's kind of amazing because for 4 years, I pointed this out before the 2020 election. You know, the old deserves to be self-evident, all men and women created by the thing.
You know the thing.
Oh, you know the thing. and nobody would pay attention. And I got hit by the liberal media. Oh, that's so unfair of Sean Hannity. I'd say I was kind of vindicated, like our coverage of the Russian hoax after 3 years. We got it right, they got it wrong. What does this mean going forward? What are the Democrats going to do?
Well, look, I think they're going to desperately try to get Joe Biden off the ticket because he was such a disaster tonight. But they can't. It's too late. They have let their voters, basically they gave them one choice. They gave them the Joe Biden choice. And that's what they're stuck with in presenting this case to the American people. And it's so funny, Sean, you hear Democratic operatives now, and we have the spin room behind us. They're talking about how they don't want Joe Biden on the ticket anymore. Well, what is a bigger threat to democracy than running this entire primary process and then effectively throwing a guy off because he had a disastrous debate performance? This is the choice that Democrats have offered the American people. I'm proud that Republicans offered a different choice, and I think they're going to make the right one.
Laura, you get the last word.
Yeah, I think that this is obviously very clear to the American people. Now, if it wasn't before, if you were an independent voter and you watched that debate, there is no doubt you came out understanding that Donald Trump is the leader we need in this country. He was the only leader on that debate stage. And honestly, Sean, when I watched it, there were moments I actually felt sad about Joe Biden. And then I thought more, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to be sad. I'm actually mad about this.
I felt that too, but you know what else I felt? Anger.
Yes.
I felt anger because, you know, President Xi and Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un and the mullahs in Iran, who Biden has been sucking up to, they're all watching this, and they see a weak United States of America under his, quote, leadership. And he surrendered in the war on terror by abandoning Israel in many ways and not supporting their offensive efforts to win their war against terror.
And I'm mad because the mainstream media propped Joe Biden up. They allowed him to hide in his basement. We all tried to call this out in 2020.
We did.
We were all told that we were crazy. I was told that I was making fun of a stutter that nobody knew Joe Biden had. This is the problem. Whenever you do not allow the American people transparency, you get this.
Yep. All right. Thank you both. I really appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.